Hi everyone, welcome to another Literacy Friday session. In recent weeks, we began our study on questioning and its role in comprehension. Today, we continue. In our first session for this series, we would have looked at auditory comprehension and reading comprehension and the difference between the two. In this session, we are going to delve a bit deeper in auditory comprehension and just look at some associated terminology that we might use throughout the rest of this series. First up is auditory acuity. Auditory acuity is one's sensitivity to sound or clarity of hearing. Next is auditory discrimination. Auditory discrimination is the ability to recognize similarities and differences in speech sounds. Then we have auditory comprehension, which is an understanding of what we hear. Now, there are some persons who easily detect sounds. They could be in the furthest corner of the room. You may not be speaking to them, but they easily pick it up and are able to tell you what you said, no matter how far away they are. That suggests that their auditory acuity is good. And of course, there are some who there's a delay in response, suggesting that maybe the auditory system is not so sensitive. Some say they have lazy ears, others say they're like me who have selective hearing. So if we're not being spoken to, we just totally probably just blot out that sound, and it's just a mental thing. And then you have auditory discrimination, as I said, which is the ability to recognize the similarities and differences between sounds. So if your auditory discrimination is very keen, then you will be able to detect even the slight differences in what persons may be saying. In our Jamaican context, there's a Jamaican Creole expression that says, "Deaf is Goliath trouble," and that's quite true as it relates to even auditory acuity and auditory discrimination. So you may be able to detect sounds easily because your clearness of hearing is so good. However, if you have an issue with auditory discrimination, you may just think that the person says but when really they were saying but. And that's a big difference. Next week, we will zoom in on how we use questioning to assess one's auditory discrimination. That's it for today's session. Join us next week when we will, as I said, zoom in a bit more on auditory acuity, auditory discrimination, and auditory comprehension. And we will see the role of questioning in assessing the three.